presentation. Okay, so my name is Lilian Sestari. I'm the head of the SAP practices at Qualix Consulting Services. For over 10 years, I've helped companies around the world build not only analytics, but automating key business processes in order to increase their productivity. Today, we'll be talking about what we can do to help your business grow. I will introduce Dan Garrow, our industry expert, and Frank Wheeler, our technology expert. We will discuss what are the current IT challenges that gaming and hospitality organizations are facing today, how can we mitigate those challenges, and where we can improve our business in order to achieve growth. We will dive into the gaming and hospitality industry trends and how technology leaders help companies win. Before wrapping up our webinar, we will go through the evolution of data management, how 3 key areas influence today's success, and how you can gain a clear and actionable competitive advantage with Qualix and the latest technology in the market. Finally, we will allocate 10 minutes for questions and answers. However, please feel free to use the chat box if you want to address a specific question during the webinar. Okay, so we will kick off the presentation with Dan's participation. Dan Garrow has over 30 years of experience in the casino and hospitality industry. He has developed C-level roles at the major tribes in the States, such as Mohegan Sun, Oneida Nation, and Choctaw Casinos. Dan has played a key role within the tribal government and all the tribes' enterprises. On the other hand, we have Frank Wheeler, who is our technology expert. Frank has been a sales and marketing executive with over 15 years of experience developing solutions worldwide for the gaming, hospitality, sports, and entertainment industries. Frank helps companies run simple by creating new growth opportunities for their business. With that said, I will now hand over to Dan. Dan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Lillian. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. I appreciate your attendance and willingness to listen to some of the ideas that I've generated over the years in my work with casinos and hotel operations in IT. And I wanted to start out the presentation by saying that what I'm about to relate to you is a result of study and readings that I've done fundamentally with a professor from Harvard University named Michael Porter, who is fairly well written and well known for his work in strategic planning and strategic thinking. And so I've integrated his thoughts and his ideas into my experiences over the years, and in an area of trying to simplify and figure out how IT can bring better value to an organization. And certainly in today's environment, where we see all kinds of pressure on IT departments to downsize and to reduce costs, it's more and more important for IT departments to figure out and to prove to those organizations where they bring value and how they can use technology to make a true difference in the day-to-day operations that they work with. So I start out always with this generic model, and I guess I'm showing my age here a little bit, this very old hypo-type diagram of hierarchical input and output. And I've often said in many of the places that I've worked that we need to focus on, from an IT department at least, we need to focus on our processes or activities, as Porter calls them, and the things we do. And every activity in its fundamental form has an input or a series of inputs and an output. And so, again, very simplistic. If you look at the way you get dressed in the morning as an activity, you know, you're an input, your clothes are an input, your cleaning habits are an input, and the output is the result of the things that you do with those clothes and the things you do with those hygiene activities. When we look at a business, though, and if you flip to the next slide, Lillian, please. Did I lose Lillian?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So one of the things that we need to do then in a business, or as part of a business, is we from an IT perspective, our challenge is to provide improvements through increased profits. And so costs are going to go into any of the activities that we have and that we utilize. And we can see, as a result of that very simplistic idea, that our profits are a result of that. So the next slide. So one of the areas then that we can focus on are the costs, and that's what typically we see happening in businesses. Is they always look at what's it cost us for our personnel, what's it cost for our computers and our software, and we try to reduce those, and that's one way to yield an increase in profits. And through using tools like SAP and any other types of analytical services that we might be able to find, we typically always take a look at what are those costs. But you can only reduce costs to a certain point, and some of the challenges that we have today, of course, many companies are looking to outsource functions, and IT always seems to come up high on that list of, can we outsource the IT function as a cost in order to increase the profits. Now, as a business, though, and as our activities, we should also be looking at the effectiveness and efficiency of our activities or our processes to provide those products and services, because if we can become more effective and more efficient in the way we provide those products and services, we can also increase our profits. Okay, next slide. That's why I tried to show here by this particular, trying to show a little bit of variation in the way we handle our processes or our activities within the business. And when we do that, we tend, even though our costs might be down, we tend not to realize that the most increase in profits, because we don't have a consistency in terms of the quality of the product that we produce because of variations in our business processes. And so that's why it's important to be able to take a look at those activities and see how they're being done in terms of both effectiveness, meaning we're getting the consistent quality product every time we do a particular process, and its efficiency, and that is that we're doing it in the least amount of time and in the least amount of expense. So next slide. So and again, that's what I tried to present by this particular slide, and that is by analyzing both our costs and trying to reduce those, and by analyzing our business processes or activities, that we in fact can change and increase our profits. Now we'll do that in a number of ways, because when we produce more effective products and we do them more efficiently, we should have a positive impact on our guests or on our customers. So if you'll, one more slide please. So it becomes important for us then to be able to gain that deep understanding of our guests' needs, preferences, value, and behavior. And in fact, if any of you get the Harvard Business Review, in the September issue, which just came out, there are 3 great articles about this very thing and what we're talking about today. And they've categorized or grouped those 3 articles into a title called Consumer Insight. And the first article deals with a study that was done where they have identified and categorized 30 different elements of value that customers perceive when they go out and buy a product or service. And whether it's in gaming or any other business that they might be dealing with, consumers are somehow categorized, maybe even unknowingly, into these 30 categories, why they buy the products they buy or why they utilize the services they utilize. The second article deals with an understanding of your customer, in that when they buy a product or a service, that they're doing it for a particular reason, to get a job done, as they say. So when you look at buying a car, for example, and maybe I should say when you look to buy a vehicle, many of us look at, well, why are we buying that vehicle? Are we looking to haul dirt and gravel in it, or are we looking just to transport our family? And based on those jobs or those functions, it may cause you to change your decision or look at your products and services in a different way. And so we need to, in gaming and hospitality, we need to understand that same thing about our guests. What is it they're trying to gain or do or get done? Is it purely entertainment? Is it social impact, or are they just looking for some place to have a nice dinner and a nice evening out? Or are they trying to make their mortgage payment, by their activities? So understanding your guest is always key. So next slide, please. So I've kind of grouped into this one slide a number of principles. First of all is this thing called Paretos Rule, and that is, it may seem overwhelming at times from an IT perspective to figure out, well, how can I best help a company? And because there are so many things that we do, there are so many activities, there are so many employees, there are so many customers, that sometimes seems overwhelming to try to figure out, where do I even start? So if we apply Pareto's rule, where 80% of your profitability comes from 20% of either your products or your guests, and maybe you should be spending 80% of your time on 20% of your guests. The ability to analyze those kinds of things, what you're doing, is very key to helping you prove that you can help the business grow. So one thing that we might take a look at, for example, is if the active guests, and I've shown here growth is something that we desire, and that we want to look at growth from a perspective of our active guests, which I show at the top, our inactive guests in the lower left, and our new guests in the lower right. And I'm suggesting that we start with our active guests because those are the guests that are currently driving the revenue for our companies, and so we should pay attention to them. And the typical thing that we do there is look for a larger share of the wallet. We know they're already coming, they're already spending a certain amount of time and a certain amount of money with us, and so we take a look at those active guests first to understand what their preferences are, what parts of our total catalog of products do they like the most, and what parts of our services do they like, or maybe they don't like some of the services that we provide, or perhaps they don't like the way we're providing that service. And so by analyzing your data about your guests, whether it be through group interviews or individual interviews, or however you might do that, or even an analysis of their spending habits, if you pull in that kind of data into your databases, being able to analyze all that tells you who your best customers are and what they like to do, and perhaps even who they like to do it with. So they're providing the current revenue and thus the current profits. That's why we start there. And these concepts can then be translated over into even your budgeting process. So if you focus perhaps part of your budget on, okay, we're going to establish new projects in the coming year, on understanding the active guests and providing either better products or better services for them, and here's how much money we're going to spend on them, we can then set measurable goals that we can follow all year long to see if we in fact are developing or gaining a larger share of their wallet. If we have a customer comes once a month, maybe we can get them to come 14 times a year instead of 12. If they come every other month, maybe we can get them to come instead of 6 times, 8 times this year. So those are the kinds of things that you can do to measure the success of the programs and where you're budgeting your dollars. And you can then prove to the company through these measurements that the spend on technology, which is being used to drive those improved products and services and thus increased revenues from those active guests, you can measure those and you can prove to the company that you're being effective for them. Now we move down to the inactive guests, and the reason I suggest that we go to inactive guests next is because they've already experienced the products and services at least at one point in their relationship with you as a supplier and as a property. And so it's easier. You don't have to explain to them. You don't even have to find those customers because you probably still have some contact information for them. It's just that they've either stopped coming to your property, or they've stopped consuming a particular product Perhaps they went to a restaurant for a while, now they're not going to that one any longer, or they've played a certain game and they're no longer playing that game. But again, through your data analytics, you can determine what's happening with those guests, and you can then develop budgeted proposals and programs for the coming year to try to recover a certain percentage of those inactive guests. And in essence, that's really new revenue if they haven't been active for a year or so, and you can convince them to come back. That's really increased revenue through a very quick and easy source, again, because you've already got information about them. And then finally, on the right side, finding those guests who have never visited your property before, those new guests. Tools like SAP can be used, and service providers like Qualix can be engaged to help you find guests that look just like or very similar to your active guests. And then you can proactively put together programs to reach out to those people to try to convince them to consume your products or your services. Now that may require that you go out and find disparate databases or data sources from outside your property that you could bring in and compare those characteristics of your active guests with characteristics of this new database of potential guests. And that way you can grow your business through new guests. Now these three categorizations of guests is exactly what Porter talks about in a pretty famous article that he wrote back in the 90s called What is Strategy? And if you go into the Harvard Business Review site, you can look up that title and see that article. So active guests, inactive guests, new guests all require some sort of data analytics, certainly all of which the data and the skill sets to analyze that data is available to you either in your current systems or through the assistance of Qualix to help you find and understand these guests in that way. And I like the idea of being able to tie that in with your budgeting process and your plans for the upcoming year because it's measurable. And again, you can use these analytical tools to help you manage and report on those activities so that you can prove to the corporation that you're making a difference in the profits. Next slide. So I now move to the activities. So far I've been talking about the guests, and I wanted to start there because the existing revenue is coming in through the active guests, and tried to demonstrate or show and discuss that we could grow revenue through reactivating inactive guests, and thirdly by finding the new customers. But now we can do more internally as well. Pardon me. We can take a look at what are the activities that we're doing. What are those products and services that we're providing? And Porter even defines the effectiveness and efficiency of these things a little bit differently than what I have here, but very, very close. And I just simply say effectiveness is doing the same thing the same way every time with the same quality of results. And so when we take a look at the activities that we perform in a casino and in a hotel or in any business, we should be able to figure out what is the output of that activity. And when you can do that, you should be able then be able to define the characteristics of that product, either the product that's sold and purchased or the service that's provided. What is the result of that service, and is the quality the same? Is the guest happy every time? Let's take as an example signing up for the Players Club. Now there's a service because it's not really, you don't really have something tangible that a person has sold, but it is an activity that's performed. If as a result of everybody who signs up guests into the Players Club does it the same way, they get the same information every time, and they get the same level or quality of information every time, there's no need to go back and re-engage that guest because you forgot a piece of information or you didn't collect everything that you should have the first time through. That's what we're talking about, quality of service. And again, by collecting data about that and through the analytics of that, you should be able to measure how well you're doing those processes. Now, Porter will go in and say that the effectiveness of a process is doing something differently than the way your competitor does it, even though the service, the product, and the results may be very similar. And so you can see they're both he and my definition are very close. In terms of efficiency, I'll say efficiency is doing it the most cost-effective manner in both in regards to time and money spent. And so because now I have those two measurement criteria, how long did it take me to do something and how much did it cost me to do it, by using the analytical tools, you can measure those things and report on those things, and that will help you become more effective as an IT department in providing a benefit and value to the corporation. Okay, next. So I think that concludes my proposal in terms of the types of things that we should do or can do from an IT department using existing tools and services that are available either in-house or through Qualx to help us figure out who our customers are, who our best customers are, and how to gain new customers, either back or brand new customers, and by taking an introspective look at how well are we doing in terms of providing those products and services in both time and money and quality, so that we can provide an improvement to the corporation or to the company in terms of profits. I've often said that if we're not creating revenue ourselves as an IT department, we better be helping those departments who are. And that's how we prove our value to the corporations. So through these tools, I think we have some good examples coming up of how SAP and Qualx can help us with that. And I think at this point, I'll turn the time over to our next speaker.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so one of the things that I thought I'd cover here before we got into some of the deeper product-related things that we're looking at from SAP on the technology side is some of the industry trends that we're spotting and seeing. And some of these certainly apply to the gaming industry. Some of them apply to multiple industries. But from a technology standpoint, we look at a lot of these in terms of what is happening in the world as it relates to the digitization of society and companies going through this digital transformation. And this applies to a lot of the things that are going on in the gaming market as well. The ability for them to correlate and consolidate data across multiple data sources is certainly something that most gaming organizations are looking at. If not only gaming, most industry accounts and large corporations are looking at to get better insight into their information, out of their information. But specific trends we're seeing in gaming is the first one being this change from just the focus on the high rollers to a mass market, moving sort of away from the high roller and getting this junket dependency and looking at a much more mass market approach to things. Certainly want to look at the other revenue streams that they have in the casinos and the hotels outside of gaming, so increase the non-gaming revenue. The ability for them to establish a single view of the customer, so looking at improving data quality when you can start looking at profit and loss statements, matching, for example, casino and hotel data, social, geolocation, all types of structured and unstructured data. There's a number of things that they want to look at to get that single view, that share of wallet, so to speak, across the different businesses that they have. Offering a seamless loyalty schemes award. We use the phrase Internet of Things. I'm assuming it's pretty popular nowadays across everybody. So Internet of Things is an area that we focus on quite heavily to provide these what we call seamless loyalty schemes that touch upon the different businesses and fabrics of the organization. And then again, the last one really on personalized analytics, the ability to predict personalized offers, everything that you do from a marketing standpoint, moving away from mass marketing and campaigning to something that is purely personalized and relevant for that individual. The percentage of marketing campaigns being more effective when it's more personalized is significantly higher. So this is an area that SAP is definitely focused on with some of the solutions that we have. Next slide, please. So within SAP, just a little bit about our company. We everything that we do is to help companies achieve a better growth. So we also help them accelerate, their business innovation through simplification. Everything we say is simplify everything so that our customers can do anything. And ultimately, our goal at SAP is to help the world run better and improve people's lives. But our mission is really to help our customers run at their very best. And now we have a new mission. It's also running live, because a lot of the solutions and a lot of this whole digital transformation topic is forcing companies to think differently about how they look at their data, that transactional relationship that they have with their customers in the sense of gaming. Where is the customer engaging with them, and how can they get that information as quickly as possible, even real time where it makes sense, to give them the best opportunity to improve that guest or that player's experience, and to ultimately want them to spend more money and come back more often. So giving companies the ability to run at their very best is one of the fabrics of what SAP does. Next slide, please. If we look at this whole notion that I mentioned earlier about this digital transformation, you think about the evolution of data management in gaming and hospitality as it aligns to a lot of the loyalty programs and the way that customers interact with these companies. Historically, they would do the single channel approach where they would want to track all of the gaming data that the person has and the activity that they have there. They have the cards. They knew the volume of money that they spent at the particular casino, and then it's very player-based. It was a very player-based approach in terms of managing or analyzing the data. Then they started moving more toward a dual-channel approach, what we call a trip-based approach, where they looked at both gaming and non-gaming. Then it moved into more interaction-based, where when you started getting online casinos of people that would visit them physically, also go to non-gaming events like shows and restaurants and retail, etc. But then the online, you wanted to understand a bit more about the online, about a particular person. So again, get their total engagement with the casino. And then the last one is really the omni-channel approach, which is the experiential based. It could be anything. It could be a tweet. It could be a social interaction that they have. It could be something that they, certainly including gaming and non-gaming and online, but the omni-channel approach is something that we focus on quite heavily with some of the solutions that we have under the name brand Hybris, if you've heard of the company named Hybris, Hybris, which does this omni-channel approach to tracking and being able to track individuals as they engage with you through your organization. So this evolution is what we're seeing as part of this digital transformation. And Dan and I were talking yesterday about this. We look at the gaming industry kind of like the way we look at the sports industry and others, is there are these small microcosms of the entire global business or unit, and seeing within each one of these industries, you're going to have leaders and you're going to have what we call laggards, which are people that are slow to adopt new technology and new innovation. And within SAP, we tend to hunt out the leaders in those industries, so that those are the ones that are really pushing the envelope on new technology. They're the ones that are embracing this digital transformation, and the ones that are really going to improve their business and look at their business and investment in their business as a true ROI, rather than the what I'll call the do nothing approach, or the wait until everyone else has something, or the lending approach. So those are the companies that we typically like to focus on, are those leaders versus the laggards. And data management is a really key area. You know, Dan, as a CIO, I know he's probably been perhaps on both sides of that coin, where he's been in the leader companies and the laggard companies. And clearly the leader companies are the ones that there's lots of studies out there on companies that embrace the technology and this digital transformation are the ones that are going to grow faster. So it's an interesting slide to understand and see where this evolution is going and how it fits into what's happening in society today on this digital transformation. Next slide, please. So in looking at the gaming industry, we look at three key areas, three pillars, so to speak, on where companies are focused on various business pains. And success really in this industry relies on these three areas. What are they doing in the area of customer engagement? How can they better engage with their consumers or their customers to monetize their relationship across all the different business units and channels in which they touch that person? Looking at the entertainment event, how do they maximize the capacity, and looking at those venues over time. So within entertainment, you've got a lot of sports teams. I'm seeing, if we focus on sports for a second, they're looking at creating these new stadiums and what we refer to as connected venues. And the level of technology that's being developed now for these venues is pretty impressive. And I know the 49ers is probably one of the more newer stadiums that's out there today. But your ability to interact with the team as you're a fan walking into the stadium with mobile applications and things like beacons, and the ability to go and watch a game and do in-seat ordering and in-seat service, these are all improvements that they're making in the area of entertainment for that fan going to the stadium. And the data that sits behind all of this is critically important for the 49ers. And that's the information. That data is really where organizations, not only in sports but in entertainment as well, that's really an area that they need to focus on if they're going to be successful in that entertainment spectrum. And then operations, the backbone of the business. How do you scale your operations and manage these venues and your staff and your partners, and looking at the ability for you to do real-time visibility and control across your entire business. We have new solutions now that are part of our business objects, our BI suite, or our platform that we started rolling out this year, that allow the executives of large organizations to have things at their fingertips. And we talk about this digital boardroom, or the boardroom of the future. The ability for you to have your finger on the pulse of anything and everything that's going on within your company is really the future of how companies are going to succeed in the area of operations. And you can decide what dimensions and categories you want to look at, but some of the ones that are mentioned here, like optimizing building and property management, or managing your partners more efficiently, or looking at self-service HR service. There's a lot of things that are out there, and the ability to manage that in a very strategic way in this digital transformational world, I think this is where SAP tries to work with companies to focus on those areas. Next slide, please. So I won't go into too much detail here, but if I looked at the four pillars, again, across the three key areas of customer operations and event, SAP for Gaming and Hospitality has a number of different solutions and within our portfolio focused on marketing, sales and commerce, business operations, and entertainment. We touched on it a little bit in the area of connected venues. So if you look at, for example, the entertainment event section, this whole smart vending machines that are coming out now, the ability for them to manage things through this Internet of Things and digitize a lot of the ways that your operations is running is really, really interesting for us, and certainly a trend that we're seeing in a lot of areas. the ability to have safety and incident management, where you've got cameras that are doing facial recognition as people are coming into stadiums, the ability to look at various lines and the size of lines of people either entering through parking lots or entering through, people lines, where you can direct some of your fans coming into a venue to go from gate A to gate B, for example. The ability to have all that data and do predictive analytics on future events that says, hey, historically when we looked at these events on a particular day at a particular weather, we can actually predict what's going to happen in those future events, and maybe help in ways from an operations standpoint to become more efficient and effective on managing those events based on those criteria. So there's a lot of things here. I just gave you a few examples on the entertainment side. This is the breadth of the portfolio of what SAP is offering in the world of gaming and hospitality. Next slide, please. Okay, I think I'll wrap up on that and turn it back over to you guys, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. I wanted to say just a few more things about Qualix, and take a look at, they've been around for quite a while, 20 years of experience. A number of consultants that they employed are all typically certified, and they have a very large customer base. I think of real significance are these IQ solutions that are pre-developed solutions that help customers like where I worked, and I'm sure many others who are probably struggling with having the skill sets in-house to be able to take disparate data groups and manage them into a warehouse or into data marts, and then to be able to do the queries and provide the information and the reports necessary to make those things useful and effective. I think it's very key at this stage of the IT development in corporations that we work hard to get past this idea that IT is just a hardware installation and support group, and that if we're really going to make a difference in any organization that we're in, that we have to get into the information business and not just the data collection business. And that's where things like IQ solutions can come into play, because Qualix has put together these predefined data structures, whether they're warehouses or whether they're data marts, that pull in disparate database data from across the corporation and even external to the organization, so that you can merge data outside your organization as well as inside, and quickly, in terms of a time frame, develop the analytics and the information that you need to provide to the corporate leaders. And then you might take a look at, well, why should I work with Qualix? Well, when you take a look at this slide with all of as a sampling of some of the major properties that they've dealt with, you can see that they have a very significant presence in the gaming and hospitality world. So a great company, good folks, well skilled, and I'm sure that they rank right up there among the best in this particular line of service.
Thank you, Dan and Frank, for such an amazing session. It was super productive. Well, I will now formally open our Q&A space. Does anyone have any question or comment? If you do, please just feel free to open your mic. I'm gonna check the chat. Okay, well, thank you very much. If there are no questions, well, I'll then thank you once again for these 40 minutes that we just had. I'll be sending this recorded session soon, and please, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Here is my email address, and I'll be glad to assist you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.